Good afternoon, it's Wednesday, March 27th, Senate institutions. We don't have the capital bill officially, but we got enough to get a start on it. And we have our friend Scott in here that's gonna go over the some of it, just a high level. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on it today. We've kind of reviewed it some, but welcome, thank you.
That's right. For the record, Scott Moore, Joint Fiscal. Just so you all know, I'll just give you an update what's happening with the capital bill. They passed it out of corrections and institutions Friday, I think it was. And then it went to appropriations this morning. They passed it out as well, recommended it all. And then they had a caucus of the whole house this afternoon, where everyone had a chance to ask questions and look at this a little bit. We looked at the same spreadsheet you have in front of you. Linda, I apologize, I can get you a copy of that that you can post as well.
I got it, I'll flip you.
You got it right, great. Then the bill number itself is H882.
Okay, so you got that today, must be?
Yeah.
H
882.
882, okay.
So that, I think it may have been assigned that yesterday, so I put it on my spreadsheet here. But you can download that as well, I believe, from corrections and institutions has it on their website on it as well.
Okay, and I'm just putting it down on this website.
What are the colors, Scott? What's the yellow? What's
Yeah,
the,
sure.
what's the, so we understand that a little bit better.
As we go through this left to right, when we look at the columns A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, these are the light bluish kind of color. This is all Act 69 as passed last year. Then when we get to the H, I, and J, the darker gray colors, this is what the governor recommended in his recommendation to House Corrections and Institutions. Then the burgundy is what the House Corrections Institutions recommended. So as we look at H, I, and J, anything that's in a yellow highlight is different from Act 69.
Okay.
So the governor decided, for instance, on line 6, Middlesex Therapeutic. In FY 25, Act 69 had a total dollar amount of 400,000. The governor recommended to reduce that by 50,000 down to 350,000. Then you'll see column J, there's a total of 700,000. That is how that is going to change. And in the burgundy section, the House recommended anything that's in pink is a change from the governor recommended. One thing I would point out, if they concurred with what the governor was recommending, there's no coloring. So for instance, you'll see on line 1, the statewide major maintenance, there's a change.
Yeah.
On line 6, there's a change as well because the House had recommended only 50,000 instead of 350,000. But then down on line 11, you'll see yellow, but there's no corresponding pink in column L because the House concurred with the governor and therefore there was no change. So when we look at the changes, the House recommended changes are basically built off of what the governor had suggested. So you think about it this way, they accepted everything the governor wanted and then tweaked it. You know, when you look at comparisons for that highlighting, that's how that works. Okay. One thing I will point out, as we go through this, there is one item here in the cash section. Maybe we'll talk about that when we get there. That's the highlighting. So effectively what they did, maybe we can just take this at the high level. Let's turn to the third piece of paper. And so the bottom, I suppose, third page, right? Our piece of paper. You want to piece of paper? Right. If you look at line 128, the total capital projects.
Yeah.
Just keep looking at high level again. In Act 69 FY 24, that as passed was 56,520,325. Governor recommended in FY 24 that stayed the same. The House corrections, that's $100,000 less because they made one change, which we can talk about.
Why isn't that in pink then?
It's not in pink, the photos, I just didn't have to put the photos in pink,
Oh, okay.
but I probably could have, you're right, some of that.
Say that again.
So if we, maybe we can flip back to line 69. FY 24. Everything has stayed the same in Act 69. Except for the fact that on line 69, the House decided that for dam safety and hydrology projects. To reduce the FY 24 by $100,000. Therefore, the total is off by a little. Now, the reasoning was there is, and I have to go back and look at my notes, there is several $1 million already in dam hydrology projects that just haven't had a chance to get out the door.
Okay.
So instead of giving them more money that might not be able to get out the door, they trimmed it by 100,000. And the idea that it's not just 500,000, there's ARPA dollars, there's other money from 2022 to 2023, as well as this, so that's why they decided to get that one of the trim.
So fiscal year 24 will end in what, 3 months and a week, something like that? So I'm trying to understand if they change something in FY 24 that's already passed. How does that affect anything going forward?
My understanding is that the way the dollars are.
Allocated.
Encumbered, allocated,
Okay.
expended, yeah, so these dollars, they hadn't encumbered any of that money, $100,000
Okay.
yet. So their idea was, they haven't encumbered it, you still have X amount of money left over from previous years, if it was out dollars.
Okay.
And I apologize, I have the notes,
That's fine.
Andy.
It's high level. So,
So it goes forward, $100,000 goes forward into FY 25.
No, the $100,000 gets
Yeah.
wiggled around somewhere else.
But not in 24.
We can talk,
Okay,
there's lots of moving pieces.
maybe,
Yeah.
we'll see, I guess.
okay, as far as, so they went in and they did scrub some monies out and all that. And is the money that they scrubbed, the $478,180, is that money that they scrubbed from previous bills that they ended up just putting on Windsor?
So.
That's why I see odd number, guys. So they went back through and they scrubbed that in dollars, and that's what they came up with.
Let me
It's on the front page.
point out two different line items too.
And I got one other question as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're correct, that the $550,000 we're looking at for the fish hatchery is actually in line 74. Yeah, because the math works for us, 72, line 72, the math works for us. We just want to make sure that, was that your intent of the fish hatchery to put those operating dollars in there?
So they didn't specify that. I
Okay.
can tell you what they did do to get there. So they moved some money from the cash.
Mhm.
Because this project, the Fish and Wildlife had bonded dollars as well as cash dollars. So there was, I believe, $800,000 in cash that got moved up from here. And then they added it to it, rounded some things down a little bit, bigger 1.9. They didn't specify the 550.
What was their intent, without your notes, what was their intent to do in that section? Was it to keep the fish hatchery open in any way, shape, or form, or did they have other monies that they were thinking that they were gonna do in that?
There's actually a line, let me see if I can find it here for you real quick. Looking at line 74. What the House thought was how best to keep it open or transfer the stock. My understanding, not being an expert in fish and wildlife, being able to change things to just take all the fish that were in Salisbury and put it in Edwin isn't possible because different species of fish.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea was to take $100,000, you see on line 74, which since money is fungible, Senator Tosser, that could be about 100,000, but it's not necessarily that 100,000 from before. And do a feasibility study as to what would it take to keep this open, what would it take to move things around, what would it take to If it's a
Totally
storage building,
understand.
it needs to have.
Totally understand that. What we're gonna do in that section, we're gonna put our own section in there. We're actually gonna put the fish hatchery section in there. And we're gonna put $550,000 there. I just wanna make sure that by doing that, that I'm not taking more monies from Fish and Wildlife that there was already expended or whatever. So we can get them, what we're gonna have to know on that section, what they were tending to do with the, what they were tending to do with the, with the 1.9 million. I mean, you see the governor had 1.344150, and then we got another $580,000 in there. What was that $580,000 increase for? At some point,
That's the difference.
yeah, 555,850.
So it's
Which
a
is
couple.
really close to the
Right.
fish
It
hatchery.
is,
Right.
but what they did was, if you look at line 198. Is this now the cash section? From the cash section, line 198, Fish and Wildlife maintenance. Yeah, it was $800,000 in FY 24. So what they did was they took that away from FY 24.
Huh.
And moved that up into the bond dollar section. And added it to the other dollar amount, but then they trimmed it by 250.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
trimmed the bonded by 250. And then they rounded. So it does have to work out to 555, and I apologize, I don't remember the number.
850.
850. It happens to look close to the 550, but it's not necessarily,
That wasn't what their intent was.
I think it's more coincidence. They
Okay,
took the
okay.
800, moved it up, added together, took away 250, and then they rounded to get to the 5150. There's a little bit of a.
Okay, well, we have some work to do on that, folks.
Yep.
Okay, the 478,180.
Yeah.
That's
So-
not, is that bonded or cash? That's bonded?
Yep, so the 478, actually, if you look at 141,
I'm sorry, where are you?
line 141. You'll see Windsor,
Yeah.
378, 180. That was money left over from projects that had not been completed, so we scraped that, if you will, VGS, we talked about reallocating funds. So 378 was left over, and then the House Corrections Institutions Committee wanted to add 100,000 to that. That brings us up to 478 you see on that page 1. So 378 came from reallocated money, and 100,000 came from the House changes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's why it's kind of a 2-line deal, if you will.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like puzzle.
Yeah,
Well,
it
it
really
is.
is.
Well, because we could have assumed that they had it in there and they didn't have it in there. So now we know, right?
Yeah,
As we go through another one of the same kind of things, if you look at line 26. Say like correctional facilities HVAC systems.
Yep.
That also had a cash component. Line 206, I believe it was. So line 206 had $562,026. They took that cash from FY 25, and the governor recommends. And they moved it up into line 20.
so what went into line 26? Again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that, the yellow on the last page. The up there, that
Okay.
yellow right there at the bottom, the 562.
Okay,
Yeah, so that went up into line 26, and I have to put together a primer as to what cash moved and where it
Yeah.
ended up. It's a little tricky, especially because sometimes they trim the bonded, then add the cash, and we got round numbers. Part of what the committee felt was having rounded numbers was easy to deal with, and the governor recommended had come with some odd numbers, if you will, odd being not rounded as opposed to even it up.
Yeah.
Where the 200 on lines 28, where did that thought process come from on lines 28?
Line 28. I don't remember exactly what they were, how they come up with 200.
Okay.
They were talking about making sure that there was a feasibility study for, the male reentry.
Do you remember who asked for that?
I have to go back to the
No
notes.
problem, okay. Fair enough.
But you can see there's definitely some movement, up and down, left and right. One thing, again, on a high level point, I would point out, once we get past, section, once you get to section 11, basically, section 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, none of those changed.
Right.
Before, so it's definitely quick and easy and simple. The governor did not recommend anything changing for Act 69, and the House kept everything the same as it.
Line 81, Scott.
Yep.
Is there any recollection of where that 550,000 went?
They did remove it. I apologize. I don't think they moved it anywhere. I think what they decided was, if you look at ARPA dollars from the past couple of years, which we passed, bills, I believe they had added up something along the lines of 17 to 19 million dollars in money that needed to still be encumbered and allocated out the door. Part of that, of course, we have the committee, you guys would know, dealing with farmers and making sure that they have that matching grant program, and some of the delays that might happen because of that. So I think what they decided was just to take that 550 away, and the governor recommends, in part just for making sure all the money gets allocated and covered, ahead of time. Part of that also with the clean water. Now I'm gonna venture a little bit out on a limb because of my newness to the whole capital bill. But, in general, the idea is clean water gets $10 million a year every year. And in Act 69, you'll notice on column F, line 92, I think it is, there's only $6 million there by
But
2025.
they had another $4 million that they could contribute to it, and that's, yeah, right, that's what they did.
Definitely. So, when we get to the governor recommend, that 6 million had gotten into the yellows and divvied out amongst things. And then the Clean Water Board recommended $1.2 million to be funded here, which you don't see on this sheet because it's not a capital bill. And I can show you the number from them that gives 1.2 million
More.
more than what's that you see on this sheet. So between that 1.2 million, plus I believe there was 6 million coming from A&R as well. That isn't here on the sheet at the moment. The committee felt that added up between 17 and 19 million. I'd have to look at my notes. And because of that, not to burden them with too much money, they decided to take that 550 away. I don't believe it moved anywhere else, but I have to double check.
Yeah, I would like to see those, numbers.
I do know that, part of the deeper dive that the committee wanted to do was to have, Secretary Pettis come in to the committee and explain a little bit more about how much money do you have, how much money is going out the door, what's the schedule for it to make sure it happens. Because there's 6 million coming in from A&R, 17 million, is it 6, is it 20, how many millions, et cetera, do you have? And just the timing didn't work out. I think the time that the secretary could have come in was last Friday morning. And that point in time, maybe was like, we really need to look this out. Let's look this out. I believe he might be on this agenda for later on this week, come in and try to explain some of this. I definitely encourage all everybody in as well and explain a deeper dive as to how many millions are out there and that kind of stuff. So, spend money. So that brings to this page, line 128. Line 28, you can see that, as I was mentioning before, 56 million in FY 24 was changed by that shade of 100,000 for the dam projects.
Yeah.
Then FY 25, 66 million. The governor's recommended,
It'd be helpful to have Damien tomorrow with it, if he was in here.
if he was available, yeah, to go through, walk through the lake and everything.
Right.
Absolutely. The governor recommended is about $5 million more in FY 25 than FY 24, and that's because of bond premiums. And then if we look at FY 25, column L, row 128. The house is even a little bit more than the government because of those allocations that we got. The 378 plus, we were able to find about $18,000 that was straight from different agencies that was money that they felt would be available for reallocation.
Did we talk about the bond premium before? Did I
Yeah,
forget
well, we
about
have
it?
for a while.
All right, just at some point I wanna
Yeah, absolutely.
understand that, but.
Yeah, I do. Scott, line 6, so they're, Middlesex, certified therapeutic community resident. We're missing 300,000, there must be a reason why.
Line 6. My recollection is that the BGS is going through the design, and planning phases. And they still had money that was unencumbered from previous years, and therefore they didn't need that money there. So therefore, giving them 50,000, so that by 25 would be enough to help with a design issue they might have. Otherwise, that $300, 300,000, my apologies, was used elsewhere in the different calculations we built. And you can see that it didn't quite work out exactly, but like major maintenance, that's up by 217,000 from what the governor recommended. So it's not always exactly a 1-for-1 match like that, but major maintenance essentially was the category with any extra money. They kind of just put into that to fund that a little bit more, which helps BGS do all of the work they do, keep everything running for the 240 state buildings. Yeah. Chair Emmons did meet with House Appropriations this morning, and she went through line by line by line by line by line. It's 2.5 hours, but if you're on board this weekend, well, I said,
Wow,
you're welcome to. I had a chance to speak up and testify a little bit too, so it was good practice to talk about fluids and filtrators.
Did they change it at all?
House Appropriations did not. No, they did not change anything. There was no discussion about changing anything. They had questions about the same kind of questions you'll ask here this week as to why things were the way they were, but there were no changes made from House Appropriations.
Committee, as we go down through this, you're gonna see little bits and pieces here and there where they've got a, I don't wanna use that word. They reallocated $150,000 from here, there, and this and that. I would imagine that a lot of that is because they talked with the appropriate agencies, either BTS or whatever, and they said, well, we just don't need that money. One of them is kind of like on the refrigeration I just saw.
The refrigerant, the 822.
Yeah, whatever line that is, that's line, number 15. Maybe BGS, didn't need, maybe they only needed 750,000 instead of the, 250,000. The R and this, and the next line down, line, 16. I had heard that, they were expecting to have another 75,000 this year, and it might have been an oversight. We'll ask those questions as well. You remember last year we were gonna try to do some things, some grant programs, the $300,000 grants that we wanted to do. We wanted to do more for like the historic preservations, the farm preservations and all that. We were trying to raise that. Well, they shot that down from us from what we were trying to do. Well, that raises the base. Well, why are we doing the same thing as far as on the 75,000 on the State House? I don't really want to say that I'm against all that stuff, but we'll want to be aware of that. Now, did we raise the base? Now, is it going to be where it was historically $75,000? Is it going to be 150,000 forever in a day? On the base on that. So just questions like that. Just dig it in. Be consistent. With what we're doing.
yeah, and there was that bill that we did last year too, which might have had an annual appropriation of 75,000.
Yeah.
The art,
Senator Harrison, Representative Emmons, mentioned this morning that she felt that there was oversight by the recommendation for that 75.
For the 75. Okay. So
okay,
We added it back in. I say we, and my apologies, they added it back in.
Right.
I was in the room, but I had no say in the matter.
All right, well, you laid it out really nice.
The other thing, Scott, 137, 138, 139. If you remember, you do, if you don't, you don't. The, $4,498, 4298, 9150. Are those prep projects? What's going on with that?
The 4498, 4298,
Yeah.
and 9150, those were dollars that, there was a repossession committee, refund committee, the House has that worked, out. All of the money that was 2 years or older that was still capital dollars that were unspent. And we sent letters to different departments, different agencies and said to them, what you got?
Right.
You know, there's $18 million lying around. You're gonna use 19 million, do you need more, or you're only gonna use 3, and we can have it all back. And that's just an example of quoting 18 million, 19 million.
No, I get that.
And so what they did was the, DEC on 2 lines gave back the 2 $4,000 numbers.
Yeah.
And then the housing and community development gave back the 9,150. And what they said was these were, if you look at the column.
So that money was taken from them, and then at the end of the day, that's kind of what they needed to finish up. I mean, these weren't, those 3 lines, the 3 recipients of those dollars got monies taken from them, but this is what they needed to finish them up, or no?
This is actually extra money to give them back.
Okay.
So, column D, you'll see, basically the agency abbreviation and then a long digit number.
Yeah.
That digit number is the department ID number from the vision program. And basically they said, let's look at all this money that's kicking out and all these programs from 2018, 2020, 2021, 2022. There's money sitting there that you haven't spent. What are you doing with it? And then in this case, those 3 items as well as the 378, that was money that those different departments said, we're not gonna use it right now. We're done with the project. We have leftover dollars. That's why you see all of these, most of these have weird, nothing rounded. In the gov rec, you can see the first, 5, 6, 7 lines that are all in yellow. They went through and did the same thing, and they said, here's money for these projects that we're not gonna use. We're done with the project, they've already closed, but when we're all said and done, we have some money kicking around. And so you can have it back. I can definitely show you the letters that we got for those.
Okay, so these aren't new areas that they're funding. They had that money, they gave some back, and then when it's all said and done, they give them back some of their own money that they took.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we said, here's.
Yeah, just looking to see, making sure we weren't starting more base funding. That's what my whole point of it is.
It was, here's $1 million, they only used $193,804.17. As an example.
So where did that money go?
In terms of,
Is it somewhere else in the budget?
yeah, so this money here that is now, it's acting as a credit to the account, if you will. So that 378,
Yeah.
they then spent that, up in line 18. So that 378 rolled.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other 18,000 got rolled somewhere as cash is fungible and liquid. It's hard for me to, I can't tell you exactly where it all went where. But the end result being that, like you see at the bottom there, that we ended up, and that's part of why we have in column I, row 177, the gov rec for FY 25 with a total of 73,689,000. And the gov rec, column L, row 177. Yeah, 74,000, so 73 million, I should say. But that extra money is because of the allocations and the bond printing.
So they found the money.
They found some extra money. Okay. And that extra money that the governor had found is roughly 2.1 million, 2.2 million, I should say, which I can see on line 166.
But can I ask a question? So in column L,
Oh, no, okay.
those 130 through 135 or 136.
Yeah.
I thought that was money that is going to be spent on the project.
No, the money coming back to the property.
So this whole section is money coming back.
Section 16 is money coming from
Okay,
amendments.
The reallocation.
okay. Interesting. So the governor's budget had that for FY 24 and had some of it for FY 25.
And then what they did was the governor had sent out a letter to all the agencies and said, hey, look at your budgets. What you got left over, we want to make sure that we, are transparent with our funding and is that over money we need to get back and get it out and in use.
Alright, so like that Ved's home kitchen renovation.
Yep.
That's money that they didn't use.
The project was completed, BGS then said, here's your extra dollars.
Okay. Interesting.
Guys good for a minute?
Yeah,
Got a rough questions answered for now?
For now.
Yeah.
the retentions, but.
Exactly. I, at the risk of asking Scott questions over again, why don't we, say we're good enough right now?
Yeah, I think
Agree with that?
that's.
Good? You'll go up one.